I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 27th, where we saw some signs of life on your cattle futures. You know, on Tuesday we saw them continue to plummet while most of your other ag commodities saw some support, trading mixed to kind of slightly higher, but didn't regain all the big losses that we saw early in the week. But it does let us know that maybe it's not going to completely just go to nothing. But feeder cattle were up pretty good, actually, and there was an opportunity for some of those that took the little speculative jump there and bet on it to bounce back a little bit. Fats continue to plummet. Of course, all your cash markets sharply lower. Fat cattle sharply lower. They've probably traded enough fat cattle this week, early in the week, to not see it go any lower yet, because I wouldn't think there'd be too many more people that are wanting to sell fats if they hadn't already took the lower market that we've seen on Monday and Tuesday, and just a little trickle of trade on Wednesday, but not too much. Feeder cattle market sharply lower, and I tell you what, a lot of your producers held back, and we saw light receipts, but some places they went ahead and just puked them and just shut their eyes and then let them go. And I tell you what, it's just really taking a toll, and it's all due to the coronavirus. Yeah, there might have been some negativity in the market due to us allowing Brazil to bring beef products back into the United States, but this coronavirus deal has just blown everything out of the water. President Trump did have an announcement on it on Wednesday night there. Maybe that'll give a little bit more confidence back into things. But your stocks were not as sharply lower as they had been earlier in the week. But I tell you what, this coronavirus deal, and it's just a cesspool over there in China, and then it's just causing those diseases to spread. Now, supposedly, the disease is not spreading as fast in China, but it's spreading faster in other places, and I don't know if that's a sign that maybe it's playing itself out in China, or maybe China's just lying to us, and the other countries are announcing how fast it's spreading. But it's a bad deal. Finally back in the friendly confines here after a long extended trip there up in Montana. Had several good talks up there, met a lot of good people, saw some old friends, and I think maybe we did see some signs of maybe starting some policy that might give this thing a chance to survive in your cattle business. We've got to put a minimum requirement on the negotiated cash sales from your big packers, and if we don't do it, guys, we're just going to continue to get more and more and more like the hogs every day, and nobody knows or cares what the hog market is. And that's kind of what I do, is tell you guys what the markets are on these cattle, and I'd sure hate to be sitting here talking to myself. But headed out, there's no rest for the wicked this time of year, as we are busy, busy, busy. Headed to the Chain Ranch here on Thursday in Oklahoma to video some cattle for them for a sale coming up here in a couple weeks. This weekend headed out to the Reverse Rock and R Ranch. That's Chris Earl and company out there between Raton and Cimarron, New Mexico. Pretty familiar country for me. But let's look at the board on Wednesday. February live cattle futures down 95 cents at 114.07. April down 60 at 112.35. Your out fronts actually had some gains as you got further on out into 2020, so that's what I mean, some signs of life out there. March feeder cattle up $1.10 at 134.07. April up $1.85 at 135.97. Your out fronts saw the gains just plummet, where we didn't see it as much gain as we did on the nearbys on your feeder cattle. But your fats through Tuesday, okay? Normally we don't ever see any cash fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, maybe just a sprinkling up in Iowa, but for the most part nothing. We usually don't see it until late Wednesday and mostly on Thursday and Friday. Through Tuesday this week, they could not wait to sell them cheaper, 42,100 head. That was due to fears with this coronavirus, the board being down the limit early in the week, basis jumping, what have you, no confidence. Nobody, they don't have any minimum that they have to purchase, so guys are afraid that they weren't going to get them sold. We've still got some guys in the Midwest and your northern feedlot area, especially over in Iowa and especially on the eastern side, that have hippopotamuses to sell. They've been holding those cattle too long. Some of them are taking them to the auction and puking them, and some of them are bringing below $1 in some cases on those real heavy cattle, yield grade 4s and 5s and things like that. There's no excuse for keeping cattle that long. All those yield grade 4s and 5s were yield grade 3s at one point. But you look at the little bit of trade that we saw, it's at the same level, guys. But Iowa, 2,600 head, a little live at 117, that'd be $3 lower, and then we just haven't seen much live out of Iowa, but most of it's been about 117, not as much lower as the other areas in the 5 area. But dressed basis, mostly 185, kind of ranging from 184 to 187, but mostly 185, and that's sure $5 lower. Nebraska, about 4,700 head confirmed on Wednesday. A little bit of live sale from 115 to 116. That's 4 to 5 lower, but mostly 5 lower. And 185 predominantly dressed, and that's $5 lower for sure. Kansas and Texas have sold the cattle and established a market at 115, but we did see a little bit of 115 and a quarter, and you think, where'd that come from? That come from your Fed Cattle Exchange online fat cattle auction. They sold a little over 600 head on there and offered them up at 15, and they popped them a quarter, 115 and a quarter. Some of them were for within this week, and some up to 2-week delivery on that. But it's just sharply lower, $5 lower over fears of a virus, and I tell you what that's got to do with fat cattle market. It's unbelievable. Your box beef cutout values crept lower, but you would think that your box beef cutout values would be sharply lower if your cattle and your fat cattle, your feeder cattle, your cattle futures were all sharply lower. Why aren't box beef? That would seem a whole lot closer to that virus than what cattle are, especially lightweight calves. But you look at cutout values on Wednesday afternoon. Choice cuts 206.34, down $1.13. Select cuts 198.60, down $1.30, and it looks like we're going to hold that moderate spread of $7.74. That's your spread between choice and select. Slaughter's been pretty decent, 365,000 through Wednesday. That's 13,000 more than last week and the same week a year ago. Look at some of your feeder cattle quotes. Your real-time index on DV auction, 137.01 late on Wednesday. That's down $2.50. We've lost a ton of ground, even on your index values that are 7-day moving averages on a lot of cattle up through the middle part of the country there. But I tell you what, everywhere you look is sharply lower. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 9,200 head there. And you think, gosh, why did guys bring them in? They knew it was going to be sharply lower. It might be lower again next week, and then that's on top of what they lost this week. Guys needed to sell them. We had some guys coming off of wheat, and some places might have made them come off, before the 1st of March with Kansas City wheat being worth a little something. Maybe they're going to make a crop out of that. Guys needed to move cattle. You got to sell them, and some guys were holding cattle. The market kept going down, and they thought, Jesus, we got to pull the plug before they get to no value. You don't want to owe the sale barn for commission when you get done. But OKC West, El Reno, feeder steers $3 to $5 lower, feeder heifers $7 to $10 lower, calves were $7 to $10 lower on Tuesday. Just unbelievably all this loss we're seeing on a feeder cattle market due to a disease way over there that started in China. And some people think it started in a lab. Some people think it was due to them not cooking their vermin properly. But Dodge City, Kansas, winter livestock, they didn't sell many there. Guys just decided to hang on to them. They just hated to puke them when they knew it was going to be sharply lower. Only had about 1,100 head. $4 to $9 lower on all classes. Even Bassett, Nebraska, you know, they're not immune to a down market. 2,600 head there, $1 to $9 lower. They didn't have quite the premier consignments as they had last week, but still, it's just lower. It's lower everywhere, but that $1 to $9 lower in Bassett was mostly on the middleweight calves. I got several quotes I want to give you here. Some of them pretty impressive for the way things are. How about Bloomfield, Iowa? And I told you guys we were going to start pulling data from Bloomfield, and those guys there, they wanted to be included in this, and sure glad that they are. Bloomfield Livestock Market in Bloomfield, Iowa, 66 head, weighed 788 pounds at 145.75. That's pretty stinking good. That's as good as you'll see anywhere. Torrington Livestock Markets in Torrington, Wyoming, 198 head of 510-pound steer calves bring $195. That's pretty close to $1,000 a head for a little calf like that. Bassett, Nebraska, they did have a quote that Shane gave me on some replacement heifers, just commercial heifers, but good black commercial heifers that guys really want. They come from Stuart Scranton from Thedford, Nebraska, but a really nice set there, weighed 671 pounds at $182.50. Some upper 6-weight heifers, guys, to keep. But the outstanding quote that I saw on Wednesday on a sharply down market come from Jake Billington at Twin Falls Livestock Commission, Twin Falls, Idaho, 99 head of 800-pound steers way out west at 134.25. They were all black, weaned in November, come from Tad Elison. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.